Imposter Syndrome. Here we go. Hi, hello everyone. Welcome back to another episode of PeerCast. Today we will be talking about Imposter Syndrome, something that I kind of dealt with and I didn't even realize it was a thing. I thought it was just me, and that's kind of a common trope with Imposter Syndrome. People don't really realize that it's something that people go through. So let's get our guests in here today. On this very excited episode, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Zoe Toledo. I'm a peer educator, and I've been in quarantine for almost 2 months.
How do you say your last name?
Toledo.
Toledo? Is that how you really say it? How are you supposed to say it?
Yeah. Toledo. It's a
Toledo.
Just like my name is not Zomi, it's Somi. With like
Somi Toledo.
Toledo.
Yeah.
Toledo.
No, Toledo. Toledo.
Toledo.
Besides the D, it's Toledo.
Toledo. Like
Toledo.
like a toro. Like a toro. I can't.
There's no R in there.
There's no R,
Toledo.
it's a D. Okay.
So I'm Alex Pestano. That's how you, Pestano if you want to, I guess. I'm a peer educator and I play Animal Crossing now because of peer pressure, but also because it's fun.
He came to my island.
I'm Sofia. Today we're saying our last names apparently. So I'm Sofia Benvenuti and I'm a peer educator and my last name means welcome in Italian. That's a fun fact.
Really? My God, your name
You
is.
didn't know that?
I don't speak Italian.
I'm not good
You've
at
been working with me for almost a year.
Oh,
You
right.
didn't know
Because I'm
that.
gonna go Google search. Hold up. Let me Google everyone's last name. What does that? No. It's
I'm
what does
100%
Ramirez mean?
sure that
Ramirez
someone
means
asked about that in the office. Like,
Ramirez
but
just
they would be
means, like,
welcome in Italian, and I
a
was like,
ram with
oh,
ears at the end.
what?
Big ears. Ramirez. Ram, ears. Never mind. It's a very bad joke. So your name is Sophia. Welcome.
Yeah, but don't ever call me like that if you.
Awesome. So thank you for joining us, Sophia. Welcome. Today
dug
we
yourself
are.
a grave.
Oh, sorry. What? What'd you say? Did you tell me to jump off a bridge?
No, I said she dug herself a grave. How would I say that? Oh my God.
Oh my God. I thought you told me to jump off a
Can
bridge.
we start over?
Jesus Christ. Nice. Okay, so Imposter Syndrome. So Imposter Syndrome is pretty interesting because it's one of those things that people don't really realize is a thing. Kind of like gaslighting. It kind of just happens and people are just like, this is a feeling that I have and I'm the only one that has it, which tends to be not the case with a lot of feelings, right? Most people feel the same things, it's just you're not talking about it. So someone could like
Harry
So
said,
could someone please tell me what imposter syndrome is?
so could someone
please tell me.
so could someone kind of describe to me what imposter syndrome is?
Yes, I can. So it's kind of like a lot of people describe it as like a fear of people finding you out, like finding out that you might not be as adequate as your job as you are perceived as, which is that's the fear. It can also be determined by a feeling of failure or inadequacy despite success. In other words, someone can internalize their own achievements and it transcends into multiple levels of someone's life. We sometimes tend to talk about it in more the academic realm because that's usually the context it's placed in. But this can transcend into multiple like levels of your interpersonal relationships, your professional relationships. So yeah.
You know who had imposter syndrome? Apparently, Maya Angelou and Albert Einstein both had imposter syndrome. Isn't that something? So essentially what it is, at the end of the day, it's like you're, and like it does, I like what you said, Zomi, because it doesn't just stop at like your job or like your academics, because it could happen in your personal life too, like in relationships. Like you don't think you're deserving of a position, or like, yeah, you're not deserving of the position that you're in, and you're like, I kind of just BS'd my way in here, and like, when are they gonna find out that?
And even then, even if you haven't BS'd it, most of the time you haven't, and you feel like,
yeah, you feel like you have. You're like, these people are much smarter than I am, and I'm just kind of here.
And I'm like, what lottery ticket did I win?
Yeah.
I don't belong here. They can't find out.
So that kind of happened to me when I started this job, actually, not as a peer educator, but as a lead team peer educator. I was in the office, and I'm like, yeah, they didn't have anyone else, did they? They didn't know who else to pick, did they? They just kind of, how did I end up, like, when Wendy called me to her office? Wendy's our boss. When Wendy called me to her office to tell me that they wanted to promote me and if I would accept the position or not, I completely thought I was getting fired, like 100%. I'm like, she's going to fire me. I don't know what I did, but I'm going to get fired. And yes. I walked up in there, and she's like, congratulations, promotion. And I'm like, okay. So how do I, yes, but I must be really good at BSing, because I can just, everyone in here is smarter than I am, and I'm somehow here. How did that happen? I wonder how long this will last. I wonder when they'll notice that I've kind of just walked up in here, and I don't have they know so much more than I do. And that's kind of the thing with it, isn't it? It's just a feeling of, you think that your peers are not necessarily, I guess, superior to you. You just don't feel like you fit in. And it happens a lot, actually. And I'm like surprised that other people that I know dealt with it. And I was like, you're smart though. Like, you're big brain. How do you feel that way?
Because that happens that way too. It's not that you only feel that you don't fit in, or that you are just BSing and you're there and people will notice at some point. But sometimes people are telling you like, oh, you're extremely smart or things like that, and then you're like, no, am I? So it can happen that way too.
Yeah, like you can't accept compliments. You don't actually believe in like the things you've done.
Yeah.
And you don't, like, I don't know if this counts, but like I have this very big problem when I make friends, that I don't think anyone is my friend, and that no one actually likes me. And that when people like call me over to talk to me, it's because they're going to be like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore because you're inadequate. That is like my biggest thing. Like, I literally think that people don't like me. And if their tone even switches, I'm like, yeah, it's time to let go. They know I gotta go. I'm the one who's the mess.
Okay.
100%.
Awesome. At the end of this, I need to talk to you separately, Alex. There's news that I'm kidding. That's
Alex,
that's a complete joke. That was a complete joke.
Like, tell me you're my friend, I'm assuming. Thank you.
But no, yeah. So like, I was gonna say, like, yeah, clearly it doesn't just happen at work,
Yeah.
Like, I did a bit of research. So something that like a lot of people who do kind of experience imposter syndrome, like, they to themselves are like, oh, I can't fail. So imposter syndrome has also been associated with a level of like linked to perfectionism. So that's a whole other thing. So it's like that idea that like I can't fail, because if I fail, then they'll all know like I'm a fraud. Or like I feel like I'm a fake. Again, that whole like imposter sense of it. Like somebody rolled a dice, they landed on my name. I don't know how this happened. Like I got lucky. There's again that whole idea like I got lucky to be here. It was just like they had no one else to put in, so they're just like, there you go. So it's a lot of that how people feel that way. It's like also like the feeling of that their success is not a big deal. Like so like me personally, like when I graduated, like when I was graduating, people would be like, oh my God, you're graduating early. And I was just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like I don't think my successes or my achievements aren't a big deal. Like I got recently accepted into my master's program, and it like I genuinely believe that they messed up. I kept refreshing my email for days after, because I thought that they were gonna be like, oh, we're sorry, we contacted the wrong person. I was genuinely like this isn't it. They messed up. Like I got lucky. they needed to fill a spot. Like
Which is
and I
crippling in a
didn't
sense,
recognize my
isn't
own
it?
achievements.
Like it's a little crippling in a sense, isn't it? Because then you feel like you're just never good enough.
Yes, it is. It also does have its tolls like on your mental health in general. Research has shown that it's linked to depressive moods. It can be linked to anxiety, excessive amounts of stress.
Yeah, but just because you have, also not just to clarify something, like there's imposter syndrome goes by a different name, like a couple different names. It goes like imposter syndrome, imposter phenomenon. So it's not to say that like syndrome, it's like this terrible thing that you have, you know?
Yeah.
It's a thing that, yeah, it's a thing that people just like experience. It's not like what you were saying just now that it's like linked. Yeah, it is, but it doesn't necessarily mean you are depressed if you have imposter syndrome.
Yeah, no, it doesn't mean that you are depressed or things like that, but it can cause some symptoms that can be related to depression or to anxiety, because sometimes you feel like pressure to do everything perfect, so you start becoming anxious about it, and like there's fear of failure and all these things that come along with it. So anxiety and stress and even depression, if you don't achieve your goals and you fail in a way, then can be part of it too.
Yeah, I read an article that like it becomes essentially a paradox. Like you need to succeed, and once you do, then it's like, oh my God, there's that added pressure. So it's literally is a paradox. Like I need to succeed, and then once you do, it's just like, oh, I'm not good enough. So it's really very deteriorating, like emotionally sometimes, if you're not even familiar with these emotions, if you don't even know that this is something that exists. Because Eliandra was talking about it earlier, that unless you start talking about it, like I didn't know that this was a thing that I was feeling until I talked to someone, and they were like, oh yeah, like I felt the same thing when I started going to like into my undergrad. And it wasn't until then that I actually started realizing, and it wasn't until I started even working at CAPS that I realized that this was a thing. Like it tends to fly under the radar. So yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was a name for it until someone else mentioned it to me, and they're like, "Oh, this is what I have," and I'm like, "Me too."
I felt it was like something that I knew existed, but I felt like everyone had experienced it at some point. So I didn't think it was like a syndrome or phenomenon. It just felt like a normal aspect of my life. You get what I mean? Like there's also that thing where like even though you succeed, that pressure can come from the fact that you think that you succeeded because of external things. Like not because you studied for that test, but because something else made you succeed. Oh, like you were lucky that one time. It wasn't like you actually putting the effort in. So it kind of strips you away from all the hard work that you've done and put yourself in, you know.
You know, I had the friend thing too, Alex, by the way. Like the friend thing. I've also had it like in like romantic involvements too, where I'll be like, I do not deserve this person, kind of feelings. But no, I've had the friend thing too, and it's kind of crazy because every time I would say something and they would react poorly, I'm like, that's it, it's over. They're gonna be like, you know what, never speak to us again. And it was terrible, dude. I was like right on that edge. Like every time like I said a bad joke and they would be like, that's a terrible joke, I'd be like, no, that's it, it's over.
Wait, can I talk about an experience I just
remembered? Yeah.
It was one of the first like CAP meetings. There was like all of us and we were playing like this funny joke game thing, and I stood up and it was supposed to be like you say 2 truths and a lie, something crazy like that. Oh, you say a lie and you test to see if it was a truth or not. And I stood up there and I was like, I was out with my boyfriend once and I pooped my pants and he had to clean me up or something crazy like that. And everyone in the room was like, I cannot believe this. And when it came out of my mouth, I was like, I'm gonna get fired. No one will ever speak to me again. I don't deserve to be here. It was funny because then after everyone laughed and they like all like, oh, you did, that was so funny. I was like,
Did you poop your pants though?
I didn't actually. It was
no, she didn't.
It was very convincing though. Everyone told me
yeah, I remember that meeting. You were very convinced. I was convincing. I was just sitting
I wasn't there. Why?
What? I could recreate
that was so depressing. Did you hear her? She said it. She's just like, I wasn't there.
I know.
Do it all over again.
We were still going through the hiring process, remember?
Yes, that's
So
true.
yeah.
It was only like 5 of us or something.
That might have been still earlier on, Sophie, before you became a full member.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sophie, welcome. That's an interesting last name. I'm never letting that go, by the way. I hope you know that. I hope you know what you just did to yourself. Imposter. Does anyone can anyone like say any other experiences where they've popped up if they've heard about it?
Yeah.
That was
I
very
think
you sounded so excited and you're like, yeah.
No, because I feel like at the beginning, before knowing about this, I thought it was just part of my personality. Because I'm super perfectionist, I'm like organized, and I'm like, I have to do it this way, it has to happen this way. It's in my hands. If it doesn't happen that way, it's my fault. So I have to make it happen that way and organize it that way, and it has to work. And at the beginning, before starting to study psychology and learning about it and everything, I was like, oh yeah, that's just the way I am. And then when I heard about it, I was like, okay, so maybe I can control it and try to realize that it's not actually like that, and then I can be a little bit more flexible and try to stop.
How did you feel about that? Did you feel like it was this negative thing that you had?
No.
You were just okay with it?
I don't know why, but I like it. I personally like it because it makes me get better in whatever I want to do. But my family, for example, says it's not such a good thing. Because they're like, oh no, you're pushing yourself too hard. And I'm like, no, but it's fine because I'll be able to do it at some point. And they're like, no, but that's too much. Stop. You can fail. And I'm like, no, I can't. So that's...
My thing is that I'm like, I never want to fail, right? Or like, it's like, I don't deserve to be where I'm at because I make mistakes and I fail. Like I can't make a single mistake. And I hate it. I personally hate it because yeah, sure, it can like push me to be better and focus on stuff, but like there was like I used to be really hard on myself, man. Like it was like I would drag myself, for like the little mistakes that I would make.
Yeah, and I get it. Like for me also, when I first started working like as a peer educator, I was like, every little mistake I would say, like I was just like, oh my god, like if I said something that wasn't in trauma-informed language, was just learning how to speak like that, just learning how to mind your words and just understanding trauma-informed language. It's a feat that you consistently have to learn. Like I would just mess up one time and I would be beating myself up about it for like days after an event. Like it was insane.
Yes. And
like
if it was
just
for
like
you, if it was like that for you, being English your first language, imagine how it was for me moving to a new country with English and having to talk to people and making friends and having a job and going to class. I was like, I'm not gonna say a word. I was like, I'm not gonna say a word until I'm sure that that's the correct one. But now I'm like, it's okay. They'll understand what I'm trying to say.
You know what's interesting about, at least for me, with my experiences with imposter syndrome, was that when I became a peer educator, when I did the audition, I was like really stoked that I got the job. If you don't know, we have to give an audition, so we essentially have to give a presentation to
Pretty long one.
Bosses, and they have to judge you based on that. So that's kind of like, it's a verbal. I was about to say a verbal interview, but all interviews are verbal. Not all of them, but anyway, that doesn't make sense. Whatever. You
like
get the point.
Like an audition, essentially.
Yeah, you get the point. I was trying to. Never mind. Anyway, but it was like, okay, once I got in and I was in there for a while, I felt good, but I wanted to get promoted. I knew that coming in that I wanted to work towards that, and when I finally got it, it was like, how did I finally get this? I was supposed to just be a worker bee for the rest of my life and die. You know what I mean? Like I didn't like it's like I succeeded and got promoted somewhere. Impossible. There must be a mistake. But let me just be here until they figure out that I'm just BSing, you know? Like that's how it feels, man, and it sucks.
Like I'm a first gen student, and my whole family was like,
Oh, me
and I was
too.
like, yeah, it is like it is, and it's.
Did
just
you get a
like
first
being
gen
like,
scholarship?
Like,
Did you get a first gen scholarship? You
the
did?
grant, which they only
did?
hand out to like first generation students.
That's cool. I probably should have done that.
I mean, let's not get into that now. But yeah, like I was again, like it's that thing. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this now. Like I remember, like when I got accepted again, like into my program, I was reading the acceptance letter, and I was just like, how am I gonna? I don't know how I'm gonna do this now. Like, I almost emailed them back, being like, are you sure? But yeah, it was really sure.
For the grad school people, you're gonna be like, yo, quick question, boss. Did you make a mistake?
Are you sure I'm the right
Like,
person?
no, don't get me wrong. I want to be in here, but I want to make sure you want me to be in here. And even then, you probably wouldn't believe them, right? Even if you did theoretically send the message.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a never-ending cycle, but you can break the cycle by looking at it, by realizing it's a thing that people go through and it's normal, right?
Yeah.
So
I looked up some.
You feel like you need some sort of like intervention, you can go beyond looking at it. You can like seek out like coping mechanisms to kind of get through the idea, like maybe change your mindset. I obviously don't really know like a good way to fix that, but you could definitely like do some research, just like how Zomi was talking about. I don't know, definitely there's a way to end it if you feel comfortable with ending it. Because I know Sophia kind of likes an aspect of it, the like, you know, there are some aspects that are better than others, but yeah, it's up to the person. It's not like an end all type of thing. Everything can be not fixed, but can be altered to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, like something that helped me a lot was essentially finding other people that were also going through what I was, and like that they've already have a little bit more experience. Just like I feel it more like on the academic sense, I have a little bit more experience in just working in academia in general, and it gave me like a breath of fresh air to realize that people that I looked up to were going have been and were going through the same thing I was. And they gave me some tips, and like I also looked up some tips on like how to essentially just work through it. Like something that helps a lot is like, again, talking to a mentor, recognizing where you're an expert at, and remembering that you got there through hard work and that no one is perfect, so it's okay to mess up sometimes. Like it's just essential. It's a lot of like learning to be nicer to yourself, and it's a very difficult thing to do. Also, just reaching out to a mental health professional also is something that you could look into if that's something that might benefit you more. So, you know, that you're never short on resources, especially when you're on a college campus. Like it is something that you can talk about with people that you trust, that you never know if they might be going through it themselves. So,
and it's also important to understand that, sorry, did I interrupt you?
No.
Okay. So it's also important to understand that it's a personal process, so we can all go through it in different ways. For example, for me, what worked was the opposite. Instead of being with people who could kind of understand what I was going through or what I go through, what I decided to do was to be with people who were the exact opposite. So it would be like an impact, and I would be like, okay, so people can live like this, so why can't I? So change a little bit in that way and try to be less strict with my things, you know?
Every time someone says academia, I think of like granola bars. That was my comment on that. And on that note, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for joining us.
Oh my God, I need to pull out a tissue and cry.
Thank you everyone for joining us on this conversation about granola bars and macadamia nuts. Thank you all for joining us. What is imposter syndrome? Yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Tune in next time when we talk about something else. Woo! I forgot how to end
Oh.
these things.
And remember,
Oh, that's right. Or the tagline. That's right. We have a tagline that we do. And as always, remember, how did it go?
and
Listen,
remember,
I am a professional. And remember, as always,
you are
you are not
alone.
alone. Bro, perfect. Synergy. Synergy. Perfect.
Me and Sophia were pretty close.
yes.
Off.
Yes.
I was just off altogether. It's like. The same vibes that Sam and Dean from like Supernatural give off, that's what that jacket gives off.
Yes.
So badassness and corny.
You're gonna say something else.
Yes. CBS, CD. What the? What's
you
the? What's the channel? What's the channel that's on? CW. Dude, all CW shows are exactly the same thing. They all have the same exact drama. It's guy, girl, drama. That's all it is. That's all it is.